we're going to get cracking on into a couple stories here, and they both involve guys possibly losing their jobs. And the first one we need to talk about is, especially after what we saw at UFC Vegas 43 in the co-main event with Ben Rothwell in Lima, it feels like it's really kind of started to snowball from maybe the last 12, 16 months. It looks like we've started to see the decline of one of the greatest refs we've ever seen inside the octagon in Herb Dean. This is another stoppage that was controversial, especially, I mean, you look at Twitter, people were lining him up for it, rightfully or not, they were. But it was something where he stepped in. I mean, he steps in, Ben Rothwell is getting beat up pretty bad. Then Herb Dean steps in to try to stop the fight. Rothwell then shoots for a takedown, and then after he kind of gets to a certain point, then Herb Dean steps back in there and stops the fight. So let me know your thoughts on this one, Blake. Was it a good stoppage, and is the game blown out of proportion?
Yeah, I'm in the camp where I think it kind of has been blown out of proportion a little bit. I've watched the whole situation now probably about 10 times, seen different angles, slow motion, all that kind of stuff. And it really it doesn't bother me as much as it seemed like it bothered everyone at first glance. And then kind of like all the nitpickers and analysts out there, keyboard warriors on Twitter, saying what they would have done and all that stuff. But if you're looking at it, man, from like an unbiased perspective and like really just watching things, as they happen, when he makes contact with De Lima, no other punches or hits are absorbed by Rothwell. Like from that moment on, no other damage is done by either fighter. Just a takedown is being attempted by Rothwell, and it's kind of because he's really like out on his feet. And at that point, Herb Dean has 200, let's say 250, 260 plus pound men right there, and right there in front of him.
Wait, think Herb Dean's just going to like try to grab onto Ben and try to pull him?
And Herb Dean's a big dude himself.
Yeah.
He's a big ass guy too. I think he fought at heavyweight.
Yeah.
A few fights. So
I think
that's
he
another
ended up with like a 2-2 record or something like that, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, these guys don't move like freaking ninjas. You got to give them a little bit of time to get from point A to point B. So yeah, I really thought that he did a decent job. It was a little awkward, but it got the job done.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it was a good stoppage because just the whole optics of it, it did look awkward. It looked strange. And it did look almost a little unsure, but at the same time, no other damage was absorbed.
Yeah.
Like he did his job. He protected the fighter.
I say, it looks like the last kind of couple stoppages where Herb Dean's been criticized, it just looks like it's a confidence kind of thing where it's like, all right, it like in this situation, stopping the fight here and then and there, not a bad thing. I thought that was a good stoppage. There was nothing wrong with that. Ben Rothwell is clearly rocked. He gets dropped against the cage. That's a great time to stop the fight right there. Stop him from absorbing more damage. He was going to lose that fight. It's very safe to say that. It just looked like Herb Dean was a bit indecisive with it. Whether he was actually able to stop it before Ben Rothwell was shot.
That paired up with the Ben Rothwell takedown.
Exactly.
There was a little bit of
it was a bad timing thing all around, man.
Yeah.
Right.
He was still kind of judging it, I feel like, and then the Rothwell when he had made his decision, Rothwell was already, I think, shooting.
Yeah.
And so at that point, it was like he was kind of like stuck in the mud almost.
What are you going to do, man?
To gather himself.
What are you going to do? And I guess he could have stepped in a bit quicker after Rothwell like got to a certain point after like shooting for the takedown.
Yeah.
To break it up, but
yes,
it seems like Herb Dean's like biggest problem is maybe he just needs to be a little more decisive there in the octagon, which of course is. Being decisive is the like it has the ability to save 5-10 shots from a fighter taking. Luckily in this situation, no fighter absorbed more damage than they needed to, but you do like the criticism of Herb Dean is fair because you have to be decisive. You can't like second guess yourself inside the cage because it's fighter safety that's on the line at that point. He has been known as the gold standard guy. I'm not sure if he is anymore. I think the top refs in the game are probably going to be like either Mark Goddard or Dan Mergliotta. Two guys, true veterans, and two people that are fantastic at their job. And what's
I
great, I
like
mean,
Herzog, bro.
well, dude, don't interrupt me because, and then you got almost younger guys who aren't like as veteran as Mergliotta and Goddard coming up now, and Jason Herzog, a guy that is a veteran, Mike Beltran, a guy that's I guess made himself a more of a household name. I mean, maybe Dom Cruz is a little bit to blame for that, but no nonsense, Keith Peterson. What's great is like all these guys are good at their job. At least we have plenty of reps. It's nothing like what we saw at UFC 267, and it's not like Herb Dean is out here pulling like a Amari Yamasaki or a C Mazzagatti. Okay, he's not that bad. he's he's not letting people go out on their shield. Is this thing to say? He's not throwing up stupid ass heart signs and then letting fighters get their asses whooped for no reason. Herb Dean could still be a good ref. He still is a good ref. It's just a few of these cases where he has to be a bit more decisive, and I really think that's that.
Yeah, I agree. I think he just needs to kind of look himself in the mirror and just really decide what, what is my thought process? Like, what's my decision making process, and figure that out and trust your gut. Like, don't second guess. Don't doubt yourself when when you're going to make the decision, stick with it. Cause I think a lot of times like that'll cover up a lot of mistakes. I feel like in their line of work, where if you just look decisive, people won't talk about it as much as if they can clearly see the look of almost like confusion on your face.
It's like the thing in sports. If you're gonna make a mistake, make it 100 miles an hour. If you're gonna make a bad stoppage, and you're decisive about it, that's not as bad as not being decisive at all. I think that's
and then like leaving the fires almost because you saw DeLima literally like looking at
he's
her
like,
Dean
what's
with his hand up. He's like,
what?
Still doing this?
Yeah, right.
You want me to hit him?
That was a mess. It looked worse than it actually was. So,
Mm-hmm.
but of course, I mean, Twitter, you got to overreact with everything, which is, fair enough. Follow my overreaction, especially when it comes to NFL at Fourth Long Radio over on Twitter.